What's going on, guys? This podcast is going to go live on March 6th, 2017. It's a big day for us inside the NRSNG Academy because today we're also launching our Nursing Fundamentals course and our test taking course inside the Academy, taking our total module, our total lesson number up near 700 lessons inside the NRSNG Academy. Super excited about that. If you guys haven't checked out the NRSNG Academy yet, you can check it out for just $1. It's a 3-day trial. You get access to pretty much everything for 3 days for just $1. That's at nrsng.com/academy. Otherwise, guys, I'm really excited about today's episode. We're talking about something that's really important to me that made a tremendous difference in my nursing education. This is talking about communicating with professors. So sit back, take some notes. Please share this with somebody that needs this information. I want to share one review we recently got on the podcast, and I'm really humbled by this review. It really means a lot to me. The review states, "Where do I start? Okay, at the beginning. My first semester of nursing school was the culture shock, and life as I knew it would never be the same semester. No honeymoon, no easing into the rest of my life, just full-on, crazy information-packed lectures. What's straight A pre-nursing student to do? Are A's impossible in nursing school? Are the rumors true? Not with John Haas and his team of podcast stars. I listen to the podcasts everywhere I go. My first semester was a breeze and stress-free for the most part thanks to the efforts of John and his amazing crew. I would have paid for these words of wisdom, but knowing they were free made them invaluable. I passed along the secret of NRSNG to my fellow classmates who were struggling in pharmacology. Just about every day, a new classmate in my cohort comes up to me and raves about the podcast and how much help John has been to them. I always reply with the same response. I know, right? He's awesome. I used to think this whole nursing thing was intimidating and nerve-wracking, but now I am confident in my skills and unafraid to ask any question. Thanks again." That review comes from Inasis1230. I'm so humbled by that, and thank you so much for leaving that honest review. Like, if I had to sum up the mission of the NRSNG podcast, it would be that review. Like, taking this impossible task and making it possible. And today's podcast, like I said, guys, is information-packed, and it's something actionable that I expect you to go do and then to report back to me. All right, so with that said, guys, let's roll into the show. What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about how you need to be talking to your nursing school professors so they listen to you, even if they don't want to talk to you. All right, this is a really important topic because we get people emailing us, chatting with us all the time who feel like they just don't know how to approach that one professor. They don't know what to do. They feel like they've tried everything they can do, but they're not able to open a dialogue and talk with their difficult professors. So we're going to talk about today is I'm going to give you some actionable items, some things that you can actually do today, tomorrow, next time you see the professor to change that dialogue, talk to them, get them to listen to you, and really get the ball rolling with this. Now, you guys, we all understand how difficult nursing is. Nursing school is hard. You know, it's considered one of the most difficult undergraduate degrees. And added to this, you know, we're doing overnight clinicals. We're trying to memorize all this information. We're basically learning a new language when we learn medical terminology. But then added on top of this, we have these very difficult to communicate with professors. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to break down these barriers, how to have a dialogue with these professors, and how to really be productive and take some initiative to make this work for you guys, all right? I'm going to help you out, and I want to take your hand, and I want to show you through this process, all right? So the first thing you need to do, guys, is you need to meet your hardest professor face-to-face on their turf. Now, every nursing program has one of these professors. That professor who feels like it's their entire mission in life to fail every single nursing student, regardless of whether they have the right information or not. They're tired of students. They want to prove how smart they are, and they think that you have no idea what it takes to think critically or think analytically, and they just really don't care how much information you know. They just want to fail you. Now, I want you to use this to your advantage because most students will hate this professor so much that they're going to avoid them like the plague. They're not going to make eye contact. They're not going to talk to them. They're not going to go to their office hours, etc. That's great. That means their office hours are going to be wide open for you to meet with them and for you to have a dialogue with them. These teachers are usually the toughest teachers and teach the most important topics, the most important courses, things like adult med surg or pharm. So it's really important that you ace these courses, that you learn this material, and that you do well in these courses for your GPA. Now, what I want you to do is once you get an exam back from this professor, once you get an exam back from this teacher, and realize that the correct answer wasn't the most correct answer on nearly every option, what you're going to see happen is that every other student's going to throw their hands up in the air and they're going to try to argue for one more point on the exam. They want that 1 point. They want the professor to take back this question or give them 1 point here, etc., like that. And you've been there. If you've been in nursing school yet, you're going to see this. It doesn't happen anywhere else in any other educational setting I've seen, except for in nursing school, where post-exam becomes a riot. People want that 1 point, So here's what I want you to realize, guys, is arguing for that 1 point might get those students 1 extra point on that exam, but it really doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things. So while this rioting ensues, what I want you to do is I want you to just sit back and let every other nursing student grade grub. Let them do it. Let them fight with each other. Let them yell at the teacher. Let them do whatever they want and just deteriorate their ability to communicate with this professor. And then once class is over, I want you to walk right up to that teacher, as they're packing up their things or whatever, every other student's left. And I want you to make an appointment to meet in their office to talk about your performance in the course. When you meet with them, bring the exam with you. Maybe you've even written down what your thought process was on each question, but bring the exam with you. And here's what you say word for word. All right? You're going to sit down in their office and you're going to say, I feel like I've studied really hard for this test. I read all the assigned reading because you did. I took the practice test. I feel like I understood the material in class, but my grade on this test has me a bit discouraged. I've always been a really good student. I've always worked really hard. What can I do to better prepare for your exams? That's it. That's all you're going to say. You've now proved to this professor that you have some balls, you have some courage to approach them personally. No other student was willing to do this. You showed that you understood the material, at least attempted to understand it. From your studying, from your note-taking, from going to class every day. Then you put the ball in their court by saying, what should I be doing from their perspective to better prepare? This works wonders. Just these 2 or 3 sentences work wonders. Here's what it does. It shows them that you actually care about the course. You're not one of those students who in their mind, after the exam, after fighting with them, takes off to the bar or whatever. What they see you now as is a student who did not perform as they wanted to and now is taking some initiative to take care of that. They're also going to see that you're not arguing with them like every other nursing student in the history of the world. It also then allows you to step inside their mind and understand how they write tests. What you're going to see is the professor will start to give you tips for passing their tests. Remember this, you will need references from your teachers, from your nursing professors, when you go in and start applying for jobs as a nurse. All right? Being friends with the tough ones is a huge advantage. Okay? So once you've opened this dialogue, once this is rolling, once they begin to talk with you, what you're going to see is you're going to go through question by question and say, look, I really had a question about number 12. Like, this is what I understood it to be asking. This is where the material kind of was in the book, and I'm just not understanding what I'm missing here. You're being very respectful about this, okay? You're not saying, you worded this wrong, the book says this, your PowerPoint says this. What you're saying is, I feel like I understood it this way. Can you help me figure out how I may be misunderstood? Okay? The advantage, again, guys, with this is that they're going to then start opening up to you how they wrote the test. They're going to start, and this is assuming maybe there was something wrong with the question or that you need like secret decoder ring to understand their test. At the same time, what this is going to do, guys, is you're getting one-on-one instruction from a nursing professor. Like, that's hard to get. Okay, getting one-on-one tutoring from a professor would be tremendously expensive and tremendously hard to schedule. But what you're doing by opening up this dialogue is you're creating this one-on-one tutoring environment from the actual teacher of the test. Now, I did this in nursing school. There was one professor that everybody really just disliked. And so early on in her course, I went directly to her room, brought my books, brought everything I had studied, and I did this exact thing. I said, I don't understand what's going on here. And so what she ended up doing is she ended up giving me other nursing textbooks to reference, places she was finding material, she was reading. And so I brought all these books home and I said, can I please borrow these books? Would you be okay if I borrowed these books for a week or two and really read through these books? And I really got an idea inside, what she was doing, how she was writing her tests. This professor ended up being one of my good friends during nursing school, if I can say that. And she ended up writing me a very good reference. And it was one of the reasons I was able to get a job in the neuro ICU. And then I also had her throughout the rest of my time in the program and other courses as a clinical instructor. And opening up that dialogue, being respectful, allowed this to happen. So that's all I want you to do, guys. That's really how you do this, okay? I want you to understand that nursing is all about relationships and mutual respect. Okay? This professor that I spoke about is still a friend of mine years after graduation. Today, I'm still in contact with that same professor and other professors that other students couldn't understand. Now, nursing is a small world. There's a few million of us in the U.S., but it's a small world. Hospitals are small places. Okay? You need to build relationships. You need to build these connections with people. Nursing is hard. Nursing school is hard. You guys know that I'm never going to downplay that. What I'm trying to give you here is a way to start this dialogue with professors. Now, I want you to make me a promise, okay? If you're running right now, stop for a second. If you're driving, take a mental note. If you're in class right now, you probably should listen. But what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to make me a promise. I want you to promise me that you're going to do this with that professor that you're struggling with the most right now, or in that course that you're struggling with the most. Maybe the professor's great. Maybe you get along really well already. But I want you to promise me that you're going to go and have this meeting. Now, after you do this, after you have this meeting, I want you to send me an email. I want you to message me on Instagram and say, hey, John, I did this. This is the result. I would love to hear how it worked for you. All right? Tens of thousands of people are going to hear this podcast. I want you guys to try this, and I expect an email or I expect a message on Instagram. You can email me, contact@nrsng.com. You can message me on Instagram or on Instagram at nrsng. And I want to hear from you that you did this, what your feelings were going into it. If you were terrified, that's fine. I was too, trust me. And I want you to tell me how it worked. Okay, I remember sitting outside the door of this professor and just terrified because I knew how everybody else felt about her. I knew how stressed I was, and I knew how concerned I was about not failing out of nursing school. So this was a terrifying moment for me, but it worked. Okay, it opened that dialogue and it created so many wonderful things for me throughout my nursing program. So you can do this. Nursing school is impossible if you don't learn how to develop a system that works. You can do amazingly well, however, and amaze yourself of what you're capable of. Trust me, I did. As we talked about before, when I talked about imposter syndrome, I've achieved things in nursing that I never thought possible. The first step is opening these lines of communication. All right, guys, with that said, go out and be your best self today. Happy nursing.